Hey everyone, welcome back to the Youth and Politics podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Youth and Politics podcast. My name is Cody and we're back, guys.
Yeah, we are back. Sorry we've been low-key off the grid. School's had us insanely busy recently. But we're back, so that's some good news. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about political education. Very exciting.
I know. Something that affects all young people, I think.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think it shapes the foundation of our political world. And I think it's kind of heartbreaking because in so many schools and for so many young people, it's lacking. And I think that breaks my heart personally.
Yeah, a lot of politicians will argue there's politics taught in PSHE, which by law it has to be, but when you actually look in depth, they only go through certain amount of things, and that's the basic stuff like how to vote, which I guess is good, but they don't even explain that properly.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously tactical voting, there's all these different types, and they don't go into it in depth.
Yeah. No, I think also within that, I feel like not all places of education actually deliver it properly, and because PSHE is normally seen as this kind of, I don't know, for a lot of people in my school at least, it was just a free period and no one would really pay attention.
Yeah.
So
it's because it's not mandatory, you don't have to do it.
Exactly. So people miss out on that education, which I think is kind of it's sad because there's so many transferable skills that you learn from politics that young people just miss out on because they aren't taught it. I think with that though, I wouldn't entirely blame the schools. I feel like there is just a genuine disinterest from some young people.
When I was speaking to my school principal, obviously I won't say what school I'm from, but I was speaking to her about why we don't have politics as an A-level or GCSE in fact, and she said that it's very hard for teachers to deliver politics because to teach politics you have to be completely non-political, at all, but to be non-political in your whole life is very hard.
Yeah.
And for some teachers, it's just a very, very hard topic to talk about.
Yeah, I think also because I feel like as individuals, our views kind of tend to line up with a political party or a political agenda, and sometimes it's kind of hard to mask that.
Yeah.
So I completely understand why it can be difficult to deliver it as a subject. But that being said, I feel like it's also just so important that we learn to be kind of do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To learn to just give an objective view of something rather than...
I think as well, with politics, you get taught so many skills, debating wise, and I'm gonna quote the Milton Keynes Youth Mayor Maggie, if you're there, hello, that she does a workshop every residential we go on it, and that's about argue the point, not the person, and I think that's great, and I think that's what political education needs is you're not arguing the person, you're arguing the point.
Yeah.
And it's how to even just schools need to be teaching kids how to debate properly. Some kids don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And for some people who are really passionate about some topics and want to speak to decision makers like councillors and MPs, they need to know how to debate that properly without having an argument.
Yeah, exactly, because I feel especially when someone's passionate about a subject, it's so easy to get really sucked into it and really defensive about it. But I think with the political education in terms of debating, that could really help, because the way that you carry yourself in a conversation can literally dictate the tone of everything you're about to do. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's definitely really important. I think those skills people don't realise would come under political education or could be something that you would use in politics. So I think that's something really important that I think schools and educators need to take into account when thinking about political education, because there's so much more to it than just here are some parties and this is the House of Commons. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel that's what everybody gets.
I think as well, some kids, I think teachers don't understand that kids want to learn about politics. I know so many in my school want to get involved in how to do politics correctly. I mean, there's not a correct way ever, but just how to process the thinking of it. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, because I think there are actually so many young people that want to be involved, and I've had people come up to me and be like, "Oh, Carrera, you do all this politics stuff. How do I do it?" And I was like, guys, you basically are doing it. Do you know what I mean? You having a debate about a topic's like, for example, vote to 16, you debating about that with your friends or you having a conversation about it, that is politics. Like, it's everywhere, like we said. I think
I've
in every
literally
episode.
had so many people come up to me and like you, just like, oh, why aren't we talk politics? It's like, it's so sad because I think they really want to learn it.
Yeah.
And to be denied that opportunity, I think it's really just bad.
Yeah, I know. I think I remember in the first or second episode we spoke about this, about how politics, like political education, should be like a mandatory subject, at least until a certain level, I think, because then you're giving young people a foundation that they can take into the real world. They might be interested in doing something in the political realm, like, as they grow up.
Yeah.
But even if they don't...
It gives it opportunities.
Yeah, there's so much you can do with it. Like, I just feel like it opens up so many doors because of everything that you learn when you learn about politics. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm seeing so many of my friends now as well go into like parish councils because they're now at that age where they can start applying for actual councils.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you could apply for council next year.
Yeah, I actually could. Like, technically, legally could.
Yeah, you could.
I could. I don't know if I will, but I could. I could if I wanted to. I think also with political education, it's so important, I think, that young people are taught it from a younger age because it destigmatizes that whole thing of politics being boring. Like, I think because of the media and because of just, I think, general news and what people are seeing and hearing, so many people think that politics is just boring. Like, just straight up boring. I don't want to get involved. Why would I want to be involved? It's just a bunch of people yelling at each other. Realistically, yes, sometimes that's the case, but like also
if you watch House of Commons debate,
but also sometimes it's not the case. Like, and I think there's so much more to politics than people think, and political education in schools and from education providers is so good. Like, it could be so helpful, and I think because that is lacking so much, people are missing out on realizing what politics is actually all about, and they've created an image in their head that they can't get rid of because it's so like deep rooted. It's very frustrating, but it's okay.
No, yeah, I think it's good to express how young people actually feel because not like so many just don't know how to get across to some people.
Yeah, and
like I think if we had political education in the curriculum, there'll be so many more opportunities for kids, and you'll see a lot more attachment to lessons and stuff. And I think it will just help just learn skills in total. Like what to do. It'll get kids doing things outside school. You never know. So I think for opportunity side of it, I think schools really need to get onto that.
Get on there, yeah. They just need to get on it, to be honest. And I completely agree because there is an interest in politics. There is an interest in doing those things outside of school, like you're talking about your friends wanting to join like parish councils and youth councils. There is definitely an interest, but without like education providers giving young people a gateway into that, it's really, really difficult to get involved. It's really difficult, which is why I think when the youth council, like our local youth council, switched to them being through schools, we saw a lot of interest come from a lot of young people.
I think as well, it's just like, I mean, we've mentioned it in loads of other episodes, but like if you look at the stats, like we're talking about Milton Keynes because we're based in Milton Keynes, but like in the Make Your Mark that the UK Youth Parliament did, we had 10,000 young people do that ballot. That is amazing. Yeah. And I think even in my local election, my local youth council elections in school was like, I think basically there was only 100 kids that didn't actually vote.
Oh, wow.
So again, that's basically the whole school.
Yeah.
And we had the mayor come in and to look at it, and there's people enjoying going through that process. But there was kids who didn't actually know how to vote. Yeah. There was kids genuinely asking teachers how
do you do this?
What do I do? And that's such a shame.
It is. It's also like two things. I think one, that's politics, and people didn't realise it. Do you know what I mean? People did not realise.
People just thought it was a vote.
Yeah, they were like, okay, here's this thing that I have to vote for, so I'm going to do it. That's politics. You indirectly gotten yourself involved, and you loved it. And you loved it. You enjoyed it. And I think I've got my second point, but you know, like with that many people actually voting and that many people taking part in Milton Keynes, it used to be 3,000 people. Only 3,000 people had done the Make Your Mark ballot. a few years ago, and now it's 10,000. Like, hello, the interest, the involvement has gone up so much, and that is it just reflects how interested young people actually are. So I think it's such a good example to show how people are genuinely, like, they have a genuine, like, desire to be involved in politics. We just need a little bit more of a push, I think.
Yeah, and I think separating the politics from PSHE, I think that's what needs to be done, because PSHE has to cover so much in the real world that it's too hard to put it all in together.
Yeah.
There's also now schools are putting RS into PSHE. So they're joining those lot, and I'm like, you're doing politics,
so
PSHE, you're doing all of it all together, because they're trying to single out RS because they want more lessons. So they're putting RS into PSHE now, and that's just going to make things so much more harder for teachers as well. For teachers, there's going to be so much more work.
Yeah, they're already so busy, and I think by putting everything under one umbrella, I don't know if this is like makes sense or not, but in my head it does. I feel like it gives each of those topics a little bit less weight, because I feel like if you did politics as its own subject, if you did RS as its own subject, and then you did like life skills, so like tax, mortgage, all of that kind of stuff as a separate thing, you can go into so much more depth. Like, there is so much more that you can say about each and every one of those things that gives young people a more kind of rounded view, a more in-depth, detailed, insightful view to what they can actually learn and talk about, like, later on in life. And I think, like, by putting everything under one, it kind of limits young people's ability there, which
I think
is sad.
As well, like, from the, like, Parliament side of it, I think from my message, before, my last message on Parliament is, like, I think MPs need to try and get a bit more involved in local schools. My MP's just booked his visit to come in.
Nice.
And he's going to be doing a workshop with Year 7s. I think that's where it lies, is actual politicians speaking to kids about how they got into this situation.
Yeah, I think with that, it would be so cool if, like, young people who are involved in politics ran workshops or ran, like, maybe little assemblies. Because I remember... the youth mayor Maggie, she was invited to go to a primary school for I'm not sure what it was, I think it was like a career thing, but she was invited to go and talk about like politics as a young person. And I remember her saying that everyone was so interested, like all the little kids were so excited to hear about what she was saying and to hear about how they could get involved when they go to secondary. So I think having more stuff like that would be so cool, because it gets young people like interested and involved and thinking about politics from a young age, which is so important because it will affect them when they grow up.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
And like, for example, there's a councillor on Milton Keynes City Council that went to, obviously I can't mention her party, but she went to a school in her constituency, and it was a primary school, and she spoke to a group of kids, I think they're year 6 or year 5, and she was expecting them not to be involved. They were involved, trust me.
Yeah.
They were talking about, like, what can she do to help, like, China, people places that are at war, like, overseas politics.
Yeah, like international politics.
And then there was there was, like, a question saying, what are you going to do about the Prime Minister? And it's like those type of things, that's coming from young kids.
People.
They actually care. And I think if politicians stop, they're just ignoring young people at this point.
Yeah, I feel like that it's kind of sad to be in that situation, because it's just like they are so involved, like they want to be involved. And I think especially with international politics, since you mentioned it, especially with that, because there's so much happening globally right now. Like, you've got American politics are all over the news constantly, 24/7, all over social media.
They're taking the fame.
Yeah, exactly, they've taken the spotlight. But there is so much kind of like drive on social media for young people to start debating things, but when they start talking about it, like, I've noticed that not everyone actually knows what's going on. They've seen something online that someone
like the drama.
said. Yeah, they're there for the drama, and that's about it, you know? So they lack that actual awareness of what's going on. And I think it would be so cool if, like, in schools and in education, people were actually saying, no, this is what's happening. This is the history from 70 years ago that you might not know about, but it's actually impacting what's going on today. And I think, because like for example in my like history lessons at school, sometimes we'll link what we're learning about to something in the modern day, and I'll know something because I've done my research, and someone else will say something, and I'm just kind of like, but that's just not true. Like, have you done the research? They're like, no, I saw this thing on TikTok, and I'm like, guys, that cannot be your source unless it's a reliable account on TikTok. It's like, no, just some random person talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, you're not getting the right. Yeah, like you're not aware on the right things, and because of that, it can cause conflict in schools and stuff, which is obviously natural.
To end the episode, what for you, Carrera, what's the one message you've got for schools?
Please teach people about political stuff. No, I think it would be to try and incorporate politics into your... Because even if, like, I know I said that putting it under other stuff can limit it, but I feel like giving a little bit of different subjects to politics could be really, really helpful. Like, for example, like I was saying, give a little bit of politics in history, give students a little bit of politics in geography, in drama, in English, in maths, in science, for example. Like, oh, because of this, like, law, people can't do this, like, or something like that, something small like that. You're still giving young people the chance to hear and to learn about politics, even if it's in a more subtle way. So I think that would be my thing. How about you?
I think it's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question.
It's a very tough one because I get why schools won't do it. I mean, some schools do, and well done to you guys that do. But for majority, they don't. And I would say probably lower the PSHE and not take anything out of the PSHE, but like take the politics out of that. And take politics, because there is a politics in other lessons like English. That's where I've learned most politics. Like take that all out of English and just make it one subject. And I'm sure, even if, to be fair, one idea I had is schools offered a politics club after school, maybe, I don't know, or like and then if you do that club, that will just count as your GCSE. Like,
so like an extra lesson.
Yeah, an extra lesson just after school, and that's optional. Because I think if you make it optional, you'll see a lot of kids doing it. Yeah,
I think a lot of people would definitely get involved in that if they had the option to. So I guess giving them that option is definitely really important. But there's so much to say about political education. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed the episode.
See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.